This conference is pretty amazing if you think about it. It's a chance for all of us weirdos who think that nursing education can be better to gather together for a weekend and talk about how we're going to make it better and how we're going to help you guys to find the success that you deserve. And now I know a lot of you guys sacrificed a lot to be here. In fact, I met Eric last night there he is, drove 23 hours by himself straight through to be here. And I know many of you guys sacrificed a lot to be here, to be with this group of weirdos for a few hours. And we don't take that lightly, okay? I recognize the financial strain, the time strain, the sacrifices you're making of not being with your family. I know there's single parents here. I know there's people who brought their family with them. There she is. And we don't take that lightly. I want these 8 hours, hey Joe, to be the most beneficial 8 hours of your entire nursing career, okay? And all of you came here for a reason. But none of this would have been possible without the team that you guys just met. None of it. Like Nicole said, I mean, even if you rewind the clock another year or so before Nicole started, it was really me in my house with a microphone recording the first podcast. That's 4 years ago. I didn't know if anybody would care. Sorry. It's not an approved swear word. I didn't know if anybody would care. I really didn't. So I put it out there even fairly anonymously, just sharing some of the tips, some of the struggles that I experienced. And when it got the first 50 downloads, I was pumped up. When I got the first 100 downloads, I was pumped up. It was incredible. It's like people are having the same struggles I had. So I started making some cheat sheets. I'm like, here's some of the stuff that worked for me. Here's some of the ways I'm studying. It got the first download. I couldn't believe it, you know? It blew my mind. And then it's continued to grow. And here we are, as this group. We're going to spend this whole day together talking about how we're going to get you guys through nursing school and get you to move on with your career. Now, I want you to know that each of those people that you guys met that work within our SNG, they care a lot. As you saw, some of them are programmers. This isn't the cry part. Some are accountants. Some are marketers. Some are support team. They had no clue what your journey was like when they started. And they care a lot about you guys. In fact, every single Monday through Friday at NRSNG, we have a little 5-minute meeting, 10-minute meeting, every single day. And we end that meeting by reading one of your stories from the Facebook group. And that's how we know you guys, through Facebook, right? And we read that story. We share the struggle with everyone. And I want you guys to know that you're not alone in this. That you have all these people who care. We have all these amazing nurses, but we have everybody at this company cares about you. And we all want you to succeed. So all of you who are living on student loans, not sure if you're ever going to pay them off, stand up. That was me. Keep standing. All of you who are scared to death of the NCLEX and not sure if you're ever going to pass it, stand up. Stay standing if you've stood up once. Keep standing. Any single parents who are doing nursing school and trying to raise kids, stand up. Stay standing, stay standing. Everybody stay standing if you stood up. Those who are really scared to start their first job and actually start an IV on a real patient, stand up. Cool. Now look around, guys. If you guys look around, nearly everyone is standing. You're not alone. Okay? A lot of times we keep these struggles in our head and we don't share them. But if you look around, you got this army of nursing students, and you got all of us who got your back. All right? You can sit down. This is what the NRSNG family is all about. Okay? And this is really what I want to share with you guys today, is my struggle through, so you know that I know where you're coming from, and I'm working tirelessly so less people have to do it or struggle through it. You guys can do this. I'm going to tell you guys this a lot today. You can do this, okay? Now, for those that don't know me, have no clue who I am, my name's John Hawes. I'm a nurse. I worked in the Neuro ICU Trauma Center down in Dallas. Loved it. It was an incredible job. Through that job, I got to work as a SWAT team and a rapid response team nurse. That's when something happens in the hospital, you go and you take care of it. Then I also got to work as a preceptor of students and of new nurses. I was a charge nurse. I was a donor patient nurse. So like when a patient passes away and they want to donate their organs, you kind of take over that care and get the body ready for donation. That was a pretty fun job. And then I founded NRSNG. So this is a picture over here of like one of the typical patients, and I loved it. You got all this stuff going on, all these drips. Over on the other side, you got the ventilator going, you got the dialysis machine going. This was my kind of patient. I just loved it. But let's rewind back to 2011. So that's me several pounds ago, one kid ago. In 2011, my wife and I were actually living in Houston, Texas. I was working with Academy Sports in the corporate office, and I hated it. I hated every single day of it. At the end of the day, all I was doing was helping people buy more golf balls, and I knew that, and I hated it. So I decided to apply to nursing school. It seemed like a great idea at the time. And I got accepted to nursing school, but the nursing school was in Illinois. So we had to pack everything up in Houston, move up to Illinois. At the time, my wife is 5 months pregnant. So we move up to Illinois. I start my first semester of nursing school. And I'd heard all the same horror stories. You guys heard how hard it is, how difficult it is, how much you have to study. And so I hit the ground running. I opened every book. I read every chapter. I studied, made notes of everything. I checked out extra books. I got a rolling backpack, right? Sat at the front of the class. I was that guy. At the end of that first semester, I made the first 4.0 of my entire life. I didn't think that was ever possible, but I busted it and got that. Right at the end of the semester as well, our son Taz was born. Now, Taz was born with some congenital defects that required him to stay in the ICU for a couple weeks and have 3 surgeries in his first year. So his hospital, where he was born in the NICU, was right across the street from my school. So I'd hang out with him, sleep in the hospital, and go to school, and come back and forth for a while. And then second semester started, and I was still motivated. I'd bring Taz with me to study. I'd bring him up to the school, to the study groups, and he would just sleep, and I would study, and I would do that over and over and over every single day. Study, 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 till 10 o'clock at night, wake up first thing in the morning. That's all I was doing. Got the second 4.0 of my life, so I'm like, this nursing school thing, I got this. And then third semester came, and I got that professor who felt like it seemed like she thought it was her job to try to fail people, you know? And it didn't matter what I did. And that started to really, I let that start to really eat at my motivation and eat at my desire to be a nurse. It got so bad to the point that I started to question, should I even be a nurse, right? So I powered through that semester, didn't get a 4.0, that's okay. Then I went into the fourth semester. This is 4th out of 5. I was in an accelerated bachelor's program. So 2012 starts, going to that 4th semester like, I'm done with this, right? Like, I'm just going to get through it. And it was OB Peds. Where's Miriam? I hate OB Peds. I hated it. She's an OB nurse of 10 years. It just did not, and then that on top of my motivation was gone. About halfway through that semester, I was like, all right, I'm going to finish this. But I convinced my wife, Sandy, who's in back, I convinced my wife, I'm like, look, here's the deal. I'm going to drop out of nursing school, wait for it, to start a lawn business. I'm almost 30 years old. And don't worry, it gets even better. We're going to move in with my parents, and I'm going to drop out of nursing school. And she says, all right. No. We talked about it. She's like, don't drop out, withdraw. So the difference there is I had a full year that I could come back if I decided to try again or come back at it without losing my spot. So I'm like, yeah, sure. And in my mind, I'm like, this is done. So we pack up the U-Haul, pack up Taz, move back here to Texas, move in with my parents, with our baby, and I buy some lawnmowers. So the plan is it's going to be the largest lawn company in the world domination. Several months into that, that hasn't happened yet. And Sandy, it was like a September day here in Texas, so it's a nice warm September day, Sunday morning. I wake up and Sandy's like, John, we need to talk. So I come downstairs, we go outside, right outside my parents' house, I still remember. And we sit down, I'm like, all right, what's going on? She goes, I'm pregnant. I'm like, oh my God. At that moment, I felt like a huge failure. I'm 30 years old, living with my parents, on Medicaid, food stamps, WIC, $45,000 in student loan debt, and we're not making any money. And Sandy's working at Baylor at the time, and I'm trying to make money, and it's not working at all. So we put a lot of thought into it. We keep thinking, we're like, gosh, what are we going to do? And it becomes very clear that I got to go back to nursing school, right? Like I don't even care anymore. I have to have a way to make money, right? So I go and I find my box of nursing school books. I found that that's what it felt like. So I dusted off, because I hadn't opened these in about 8 months. So 8 months I hadn't even thought about nursing. My goal was to forget it, like try to block that memory. And I'm like, okay, I've got to return to nursing school in about 2 or 3 months. I've got to pass that last semester and pass NCLEX and get all that knowledge that I tried to forget back in my brain. I got about 2 months to do it. So my old method of cramming and studying everything just wasn't going to work, because I had a pile of books like that I had to be prepared to take a 75-question test on, right? So I had to develop a new method. Side note, that's where the method we use, the pedagogy we use inside NRS&G was kind of born. We call it now the core content mastery method. It was the way I used to get all that back into my brain and go back to nursing school. So 2013, go back to nursing school. So she's pregnant, Sandy, and it just so happens that our daughters due about the same time school is about to start. But remember, we're in Texas, school's in Illinois. So we work with the doctor, we're like, can we do an induction date like right before John has to leave? So our daughter Kai, she's born, that's in the hospital. The next day, I load up the Civic with a backpack and some clothes and drive up to Illinois to finish my last semester. Sandy was going to stay in Texas for a few weeks, so we made sure Kai was healthy, and then she was going to follow up along and come back up and kind of finish that semester out with me. So I get up there to Illinois, move into our apartment with my backpack and some clothes, and I had no bed. I'm not sure what my plan was with that. So I'm driving through the apartment complex, preparing to go to school the next day, and I pass the dumpster. Out of the corner of my eye, I see this big king-size mattress. I'm like, score. So I back the Civic up. It's king-size, dude. So I grab it, throw it on top of my Civic, and then pimp it to my apartment. We're on the second floor, so then I back the Civic up, drag this thing up 2 flights of stairs, and that's where I slept. Luckily, we had some money. I went to Walmart and actually got a little egg carton mattress. No bed bugs. So that's the positive note there. So looked out there. So that's where we lived. That's how it was for that last semester of nursing school. We had to borrow $3,000 from my parents. We had to borrow $3,000 from my in-laws just to finish that last semester and pay tuition. Continued on Medicaid, food stamps, and WIC. In fact, Sandy went to Walmart here in town. Gosh. She bought like tons of food stamp food and made a bunch of frozen meals. And that's what we ate. That's all the money we had. But that hope of becoming a nurse is what really got me through that time. So then I got a job in Methodist Dallas ICU. It's a huge hospital. It's an awesome hospital. I loved it. This is one of 3 halls in the ICU I worked in. This is like a 34-bed neuro ICU, all neuro patients. That's where I met Nicole. And again, that's kind of what the patient looked like. I loved it. You either love neuro or you hate it. Most people hate it. Luckily, I ended up liking it. It was really, really cool patients, really sick people, and got to see a lot of things. Is it okay if I tell one story from working there? Please? Okay. So when you start in an ICU, you do like a 13-week internship, if you're lucky, if you get at a good hospital. And my preceptor was Vanessa. And she's like the typical ICU nurse, type A, hardcore. She doesn't take shit from anybody. And I really ended up appreciating her a ton. She was a really, really, really good nurse. But all good things come to an end, and my internship ended, and now I'm Nurse John all by myself. That was scary. So my first day, I remember my first day actually, this is how it happened. I pull up to the hospital, and the neuro ICU is on the 5th floor. So I push the elevator button, go up to the 5th floor, the door's open, and Jennifer, the day shift nurse, charge nurse, is coming on, and I'm going off. And I go, Jennifer, do you really think I'm like ready to be alone? And this is her walking into the elevator. She goes, you better be. That was my first day, alone. But about 2 weeks into that, I got assigned to a patient way on the very end of one of these halls. And this was a guy he was a young guy, maybe in his 50s, mid-50s, 60s, who had suffered a big stroke, big ischemic stroke, and was non-survivable. So the family had decided to withdraw care. So what that means is you turn off the vent, turn off the meds, and let him pass. So that's my patient for the night. I'd never done this on my own. I remember I'm 2 weeks into being like a real nurse. And this involves a ton of stuff. So you have to take care of the patient, the family, you have to call the coroner, you have to get the physicians up there to sign the death certificate, you have to get it's a lot of work. And so this is my patient. So I walk down there trying to look confident. I'm like, shaking. Get to the room, and I'm like, hey, I'm John. I'm going to be your nurse. It's going to be great. Wrong thing to say. So they ask me, so I say, okay, this is what we're going to do tonight. This is kind of how it's going to work. Trying to do the best I could to explain all this. And inside the room, right, when this happens, like all the family starts to show up, right? They're like, because they know what's going to happen. So his mom's there. She's this really short little lady. And then all the family's there, the brothers, the cousins, the kids, everything. Everybody's there. So it's this big room of people crowding out into the hallway, and it's my job to take care of all that. So they're like, how long does this normally take? 10 minutes? I had no clue. So he actually had a pacemaker, so we had to get like a magnet and put it over the pacemaker to deactivate it to stop the heart. So we withdraw the tube, I get the magnet. It took about 10 minutes. So I lucked out there. So as the family's leaving, after he passes, the family starts to leave. We close the blinds, give everybody a chance to say their goodbyes, right? And this was the crying part. This is when I was supposed to cry. So shut the blinds, and I go stand outside the room, right? Just kind of waiting for everybody to kind of leave. And the last person to leave is his mom, right? So I'm just standing there. And she comes up, she stands outside the room, and she reaches around and gives me a big hug. And she looks at me and she goes, thank you, John. I will never forget you. I love you. I just met her 10 minutes ago. But here's why she was saying that. Because in that moment, I represented all nurses ever to her. I represented each of you who are about to go work in hospitals and do this. I represented the medical team. I represented the hospital. I represented healthcare to her in that moment. She didn't care that it was John. What she cared about it was that I took care of her son. And here she was about to leave her son in my hands and go home. The next time she would see him would be at a funeral. When you guys graduate, when you pass the NCLEX, when, not if, and you get those letters after your name, LPNRN, I don't care. You represent me. You represent Nicole. You represent Chance, Miriam, Marie. You represent every nurse in the world. You represent each other. People never forget that nurse that took care of him in their darkest moment, ever. In fact, I still remember that time with Taz when he was in the NICU. This is our first baby. We were terrified, right? One night we go down to the cafeteria to eat just to get out of the moment for a second. We come back up. God. And Stacy was her name, the nurse. She's bathing him. She's taking care of him. And I knew he was safe. Be that nurse. Okay? So 2015 comes. I've been a nurse for about a year or so. I start trying to talk about my journey. This is the first desk I ever worked from doing NRSNG stuff. You can see the mic I recorded the first podcast with. I had no idea where this was going to go. Last night, Brad Bass, is he in here yet? Nurse Bass is here today. Last night, Brad was asking, did you have any idea what would come of this? I said, no, there was no plan. It was just sharing what was going on. This map here, anything that's blue of any color, is a country where someone has visited NRSNG in the last year. If you ever go to North Korea, will you log in so we can get that country marked off? So I had to look it up. So North Korea, of course, and then this is like sub-Sahara. So bring like a satellite internet and just go on a little safari or camelback ride or something. But in the last year, nurses and nursing students from the entire world have joined the NRSNG family with all of you. There's 200 of us here today. You're not alone. You're not alone, guys. So then NRSNG started growing. This is my actual dresser with the NRSNG summer lineup. This is a new shirt. I just got this one last night. Hi, I'm John. And this is some students from Collin College. We've been lucky to be able to be involved with Collin College a little bit. They'll come down and they just thanked us for doing some stuff with them. But I want to close this out, guys, with giving you 7 tips, 7 steps, 7 suggestions to stay mentally sane in nursing school so you don't do what I did and you don't drop out. Withdraw. The first step is avoid becoming unidimensional. Now, the person I actually do like to talk about this is Nurse Bass. While he was in nursing school, he had his YouTube channel going, but then he also started like a workout YouTube channel. So he had these other hobbies going on so that nursing didn't become the only thing he did. Me, on the other hand, it's all I did. It's all I could think about. And I remember the walks with Sandy in nursing school when I had that professor. She's like, just stop thinking about it. I couldn't get my mind off of it. I was like, yeah, but it's not fair. And it's blah. She's like, just stop. Take a break. Develop a hobby. Basket weaving, rollerblading, weird things. Realize that after nursing school is when you begin to learn in exponential leaps. I was talking to them last night at our place, and the way nursing school is structured is you're going to take question 1, it's about a PEDS patient. Question 2 is about a heart failure patient. That's not real life nursing. They don't put you in a hospital and say, you're going to take care of every kind of patient there ever was in the history of healthcare. You're going to specialize. You're going to get into a field. As soon as I passed the NCLEX, my NCLEX books went in the garbage, and I started getting neuro ICU books. I still have them, stacks. And on my first day in the neuro ICU, I started reading those books. And all the other things could be forgotten. Don't feel like you have to know it all right now. You have to know how to be a safe nurse so you can pass that test and you can start becoming an excellent nurse. The rising tide lifts all ships. As the ocean fills with water, all ships come up. The idea behind this, guys, is you don't have to be competitive with each other. If one of you does well, start a study group. Don't compare yourself to someone else's test grade. This is your journey, not someone else's journey. Bring each other up as you go. Along those lines, you are not your grades. And this is coming from the guy who just bragged about getting a 4.0. But you're not your grades. And you have to be okay with that. Your grades are a snapshot in time of how you did on a single test, whether it was fair or not. It means almost nothing. Do you understand the material? Do you understand the material, and can you take care of that patient? That's all that really matters. And then deep work. Deep work, this comes from a tip from a book by the same name. If you're looking for some summer reading outside of nursing, this is a good book. It's called Deep Work. The idea behind deep work is that when it's time to study, everything else goes off. That includes Twitter and Instagram and the Facebook group even. Turn everything off. If you're inside NRS&G, install a Chrome plugin that shuts every other tab down, so you're focused inside there. When it's time to study, it's time to study. And it's okay to tell your family and friends, like, look, if I don't pass this test, I'm gonna be homeless, you know? You guys let them know that you have to study for nursing school. It's not like other degrees, you have to be studying. And make yourself focus on that. You can get more done in a 15-minute focus study session than a 2-hour distracted. It takes so long to get your brain back to where you were if you allow it to get distracted. Focus, focus, focus. Then, find a good friend or start keeping a journal. The reason I suggest this is you're gonna see a lot of terrible stuff, and you're gonna see a lot of challenges, and there's gonna be a lot of hard things that happen. Get a friend that you can vent to. It's okay to have a bitch sesh every now and then. That's okay, it's good, it's healthy. Start a journal if you don't have anybody you can talk to. I was lucky because Sandy is a dietitian, she worked in ICU with it, so she saw a lot of the same kinds of things and had some of those same dynamics that I was dealing with, so I could talk to her. If you don't have a spouse, significant other, find a friend. If you don't have that, find a journal. If you don't want to do that, just do voice notes on your iPhone or your phone. Just something to get those feelings out, all right? Don't bottle them up, you can't. Lastly, life is a journey and the power of yet. What I see a lot of people do, especially as they email us, is to say, I'm a terrible test taker. I can't start IVs. I can't get a job. Those are definitive statements about how worthless you think you are. Instead, say this, I'm not a good test taker yet. Damn it. I'm not good at starting IVs yet. I haven't found a nursing job yet. You don't have to pass nursing school today. You don't have to pass next week. I took a whole year off, and I still got a job. Okay? Relax. It's okay. It's okay. When you get that first nursing job, you don't have to get the Foley on the first try. You never will on a female. Just telling you. Be prepared. It's okay. All right. Almost done. You guys doing okay? All right. Take out a pen and paper, take out a phone, take out a laptop, whatever. Ready? All of you chose to be here for a reason. Here, today, at 9 o'clock in Allen, Texas. You all made sacrifices to be here. I want you to think for a minute, what was that one thing? What was that one reason that you decided to be here? And write that down. And throughout the day, find answers to that question. Find little nuggets Find little notes. Find little things that help you answer that question of why you chose to be here. I don't want this to be wasted time, energy, or money for you. I want you to leave here knowing that you're not alone. I want you to leave here knowing that you can do this. All right? You guys, this is going to be an amazing day. There's so much planned today. Make sure that you're taking notes. Make sure you're getting coffee and juice and water. And I want to see all you here at the end of the day. And I want to hear all your stories as you succeed and as you get where you want to go. Thank you guys so much for being here. And make sure you come up and talk and chat and share your story.